Great to have you join us today for End Time Prophecy. I'm Dr. Doug Tucker, and every Tuesday and Thursday we meet for a few brief moments to take on a subject of biblical prophecy that's being fulfilled right before our eyes in the days and time we're living. And today's topic is the signing of the 7-year covenant. Now, I'll be studying this more and sharing with you in the upcoming episodes, but we just recently, September 18th and 19th, had a 7-year covenant signed, and it's got peace all over it, and it was signed in the United Nations. Out of the 193 member states, 191 signed this 7-year covenant, which is basically the Agenda 2030 by WEF and Klaus Schwab and that crowd. And all of it kind of sounds good on surface. Just like an angel light, it sounds good. Everybody's going to get a paycheck. There'll be no poverty. It just sounds so good. And they're going to be able to do in this next 7 years what's never been done before. So they think. So as I introduce and talk about this covenant that was recently signed, let me just mention that I've read the covenant. I read the 10-page document that was signed by the United Nations states. It's basically, it sounds crazy. They're going, eventually tell us what to eat, where to work, how much salary you get for your career. The climate really will be changing. They think they're going to save the earth. No, that's God's business. And he tells us in his word, which I hope you believe I do, that even after this world as we know it ceases and the 7-year tribulation period's over, Christ will come back and rule upon this old earth 1,000 years, called a millennial kingdom. Then after 1,000 years, there will be a new earth. And the old one will be done away with it. But God's got this, not man. They're jumping the gun and want us to jump with them. Be very careful. Anyway, the day after the Feast of Trumpets, the day after it, which was, I think, 15th through 17th September was Feast of Trumpets. It ended on the 17th, and the 18th and 19th, they met in the United Nations, and they came out on the signing on the 19th of September 2023, a 7-year covenant, which will take us to 2030. It's almost scary, isn't it? But I want you to look at the scriptures, because sometimes we think it just says clearly that Israel shall sign a 7-year treaty with its neighbors, and it's going to be peace. Well, it doesn't quite say that in those words. But if treaty was signed, and we're going to give more details upcoming, search it out, and see just what this covenant is talking about. And indeed, it is the 7-year covenant that was prophesied so many years ago. Well, I hope you're interested, so let's roll. I'm going to be short to the point, and we're going to look at Daniel chapter 9. Remember, Daniel's the key, Revelation's the door. They go together. In fact, what's mentioned in Daniel chapter 9 is also mentioned in the book of Revelations. It's mentioned in the Gospels by Jesus. But it starts off in Daniel 9. Gabriel the archangel comes to David and gives gives Daniel the meaning, understanding of the prophecy. It says 70 weeks are determined. And so park right there for a second. The 70 weeks is not talking about literal weeks. In Nehemiah, Ezekiel, and even in Genesis, I think it's Genesis 27, verse 25 through 29, it talks about Jacob worked a week for his wife. And then after that, he was deceived, which, he had a part to play too. Anyhow, it says he was deceived, and he had to work another 7 years in Genesis 27, 29. It says he worked the week, and after the 7 years, he was able to marry Rachel, not just Leah. This interchanges. The word means days or years, and in this context, it's talking about 70 years. And it's 70 years. It's 70 weeks, but you take 70 weeks times 7, and you come up with the number 490. Keep that in mind. Keep that in mind. It says the 70 weeks are determined for your people and for your holy city, talking about the Jews in Jerusalem, to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in the everlasting righteousness, talking about Jesus Christ and his kingdom, to seal up vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy, talking about Jesus. Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem, So the command to restore and build Jerusalem until the Messiah, the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall even in troublesome times. This prophecy would be right there from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem. There shall be 7 weeks. 7 times 7 is 49. So this is talking about rebuilding the city of Jerusalem, not just Nehemiah with the wall and Ezra with the temple, but look at the degree that it talks about rebuilding the gates, the city, the houses, and stuff of that nature. This took place. And now the Jewish calendar, the Hebrew calendar, it has 13 months from time to time. On its calendar, we have 12. The Hebrew calendar has 360 days for a year. In the Gregorian, it's 365. But you do the math, and just let me simplify it. About 4050 BC, Ezra and Nehemiah's time, 4050 BC, out of 3, maybe 4 degrees went out. The degree goes out to rebuild the city, everything. So say take 450, so back it down all the way. You can't go to 0 AD. That's 1 year you miss. It goes from 1 BC to 1 AD. It just happens that sudden. So you got to include that. Anyhow, you go 450, and now 70 times 7 is 490. You only got 450. Then take 33 years of the Messiah that shall be cut off, where he is crucified, buried, and rose the 3rd day. And 33 and 450, and you got what? 483 years. That's the mention right here. It mentions there should be 7 weeks and 62. You times that, and you got 483 years of this prophecy. But it's still a week missing, or 7 years missing. That's going to come, okay? It says, and after the 62 weeks, of course in the 7 weeks, the Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself, it's for us. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And that was when, like a flood, the Roman soldiers, they just came right in, the legions, they came right in and destroyed Jerusalem, destroyed it all. And it says that would happen. Then the end of it shall be with a flood. They did, and not talking about literal flood, the flood of the soldiers. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. So we had, at that point of the crucifixion of Jesus Christ, at that point the church age came in, and God picks back up with Israel and the Jews in the last week or the last 7 years. Because it then says this in Daniel 9, keep reading, Daniel 9, 24 following. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. That would complete 483, the 7 years, 490. That would complete it, the last 7 years. He shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week, but in the middle of the week, he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. That's where Matthew and the scriptures bring out that the Antichrist goes in that temple and does something crazy with the sacrifice, and he's found out who he is. And it goes on to say, even until a consummation which is determined is poured out on the desolate, until all these things comes to pass. Now, stay with me. The 490 years is completed on that last week of the last 7 year tribulation period. And we're there now. It may have been signed. So we're going to keep an eye on it and we'll unpack the 7-year peace treaty, unpack the details in coming up episodes and the agenda 2030. So all I can say right now is we see it right before us. The 490 years is there, the last week, the last 7 years. The covenant may have been signed. We'll look at it closer. And we're there. We are there. So I'll pick up next episode, but if you'd be so kind to hit like and subscribe buttons below, it only costs you a second of time. It'll help us to remind you of our next episode and also help us to reach others and more people with God's truth. Thanks until next time. May you find grace to help you in deep waters, wisdom at every fork in the road you face, and strength to walk in your God-given path. And may you arrive in the joy of many mountaintops. Until next time, here at End Time Prophecy, remember God loves you, and so do we.